Hi, welcome to some Christmas ideas with GourmetQuilter. I'm Susan Clare, GourmetQuilter, and as you can see I've already got my hat on ready for Christmas. This is the idea that we're doing today. There are 20 ideas altogether and we are up to idea number 5. There's a pattern in case you're interested through GourmetQuilter.com. It's a downloadable pattern and it comes out each day for 20 days we're doing a different Christmas idea. As I said, we're up to day 5. So the pattern has enough information for you to be able to make each different project each time, so the pattern comes daily as well. So what I've gone ahead and done is this is what we're making. We're making the little Christmas hat. So many of us use the little Christmas crackers or bonbons, depends what you call them, at Christmas time, and inside is always a little tissue paper type party hat, and I thought, why didn't we make our own hats that are reusable, adjustable with Velcro or hook and loop, I perhaps should call it. We've even got little jewels on our little crowns. So it's super simple, super easy to store, ready for the next time you want to use them, and adjustable sizing. So that's what I'm just going to show you this time. It was just an idea to try and set our Christmas table up with all sorts of little fun things, as well as some of the ornaments that we're making. So I've gone ahead, I've got my pattern all cut out and I joined up my pieces of paper so that it was the right size. And I've just gone around and basically drawn all the way around the outside of the pattern piece. So along here and all the way around. I'm not sure if you can see that, but with a pencil I've just drawn the lines of where the pattern was. And so that's actually my cutting line, so not a stitching line, but I found that was the easiest way because it's quite long, it's quite hard to cut a batting strip exactly the right size, so we'll be trimming around all the way around after we've done some sewing. So I've got 2 layers of fabric here, right sides together, and I'm just going to sew through. So I'm just going to pretend this is my edge and I'm just going to be sewing 1/4 inch in from my drawn line all the way around, and I'm just going to leave a gap for turning at one end because we can turn the whole thing through one end and then it gets closed over when we sew that fastening on. So initially I'm just going to start sewing, as I said, 1/4 inch in, leaving a gap in that end for turning. So nothing terribly hard about this. I've got the batting behind. It is actually just a lightweight, it's a cotton poly 80-20 blend, and it is lightly fusible, so I have fused it, but it's not necessary to have it fusible. It's just that that's what I had on hand, so that's what I'm using. So as I said, I'm using my drawn line as if it was my cut edge, so I'm sewing 1/4 inch in. So I'll go ahead and just sew all the way around. When we get to these points here, maybe I'll show you doing some of the points. It's really just pivoting, not hard. So I'll just keep going and show you shortly. So I'm just coming along this top pointy edge, and because I'm using the drawn line as if it was my edge, I have to remember to stop 1/4 inch short of the next line to be able to turn it. So if you wanted to draw another line or mark some points of where you stop for the pivoting so that you're 1/4 inch in, that would be fine, or you might just know where 1/4 inch is. In fact, if you've got a 1/4 inch foot, anything like this one, it's got little notches in it, so I know that there's a little notch here that tells me that I'm 1/4 inch away, which is very convenient. So it's really just straightforward doing a zigzag but keeping within that seam allowance. So I'll just keep going and show you when we're doing the next bit now. So I've done all the stitching. You can probably see it better from the back side through the batting here. So everything, and I've left my gap here for turning. So we just need to trim it all down now so that it is ready for turning. So we just want to trim now pretty much on our drawn line, that 1/4 inch away from the stitching. So all the way along this long lower edge here, and then along all the points and things. So I might probably start doing those. So it just means being a little bit careful at your points. You could do it with scissors if you'd rather not do it this way. I'm just going to go along, and I find it's quite good to just go along and do all the ones in one direction. Just making sure that my cutter doesn't go right into the stitching, of course. And there's one more here. And then I can come back the other way. Oops. Turning it around this way so that I can see my lines. And just being careful of these points, and you may have to come back and just pull out the last little bit with some scissors, but you can do a fair bit of it with your cutter if you'd like to, or as I said, just come in and just finish off those little bits there, because you don't want to run the cutter through your stitching. That would not be helpful. And the other thing that we need to do is to clip into the corner. So where we've stitched the little V in there, clip the seam right into, don't cut your stitching, right into that, and also across the points, again close to the stitching, so that there's less bulk in the seam when it comes to turning it, and also so that these ones will open out when we do turn it out. So I'll go ahead and finish cutting this all out, and then I'll show you what we do with it next. So I've gone ahead, I've cut everything out, I've clipped across all my little corners, I've clipped into my little corners here, so it's all ready for turning now. So it's quite long to turn, so if you've got something that will help you, this is just a little takeaway chopstick. I find them amazingly useful. So all I'm doing here so I've left the gap at this end, so I'm going to turn it all through there. So I just like to open it out so I can feel to pull it apart, and then I pop the stick in there and I just start feeding that onto the stick, and it should pull through for you. Just bunches up a little bit onto the stick, but hopefully you can get it through enough that you can get out the other end, and then you can start pulling it all through. And then we just have to go back again. The stick is really helpful because we need to go back in and push all the points out, and then we'll need to press it all, and then we'll need to do some stitching, put some jewels on it. So if you can work out where the points start and stop, this should all come up quite nicely now because we clipped those little corners and things. So you can just come along and use some sort of a tool to push all those corners out. So I think you've got the hang of that now, so I'll go ahead and do all that and I'll get it all pressed. So I've got it all turned out, I'm just about finished pressing it. It's all sitting nicely. Quite nice to make our own little crown. Oh, life is good. So the end where the gap is, I've just turned those edges in and pressed it so it looks like it's stitched, and we'll catch that in as we do the top stitching or when we put the fastening on. So I'm going to go around now and top stitch just 1/4 inch in all the way around the whole thing. So that should pretty much close over that gap at the same time. Nothing terribly hard about any of this, it's just kind of fun. So I'll just go ahead and just start stitching. I'm just stitching 1/4 inch in all the way around. So I finished the top stitching, and now I'm just putting on the hook and loop fastening, and I'm just stitching it on. And so I'm stitching it on, this one I'm stitching this way. On the first one I made here, I've got it going up and down, but it doesn't leave quite as much room for adjustment as doing one this way. So I thought I'd do one this way and do one that way. So that if you had somebody with a smaller head perhaps that you needed to adjust it a little bit more for, this would be just as good. So the thing to remember though is when you're using this, something like this with hair, because this is a nice grippy sort of thing, you don't really want that on the inside edge. You want to make sure that it's on that side that's most comfortable for you to put on onto the outside, so that when that wraps around, that's not against your hair. So that means that one goes on one side and one goes on the other side, so that that will overlap when it comes round. So I can go ahead and get this one done, and then we've got to sew some jewels on because we're making our own. We can have a jeweled crown. So I'll go ahead and get this done. So I went ahead and I've fused some fabric jewels on. You could of course put some bling on, some nice little rhinestones or all sorts of things. But I'm not much of a one for bling, and I quite like just the colours. So I'm happy. So I've fused the shapes on. and I'm just applicating them, and I'm just free motion stitching because it's round in a circle. It seemed an easier way to do it, but you wouldn't have to do it free motion. It is raw edge, but these hats will all be washable, which is great fun. Of course, they don't only have to be for Christmas. You could make hats in Christmas colours for Christmas, and you could make all sorts of hats for all sorts of occasions. But I just thought it was kind of fun to have the table setting with all sorts of things going on. So this is my little crown. Instead of perhaps having one of the paper ones that comes out of one of the crackers. I don't always have crackers, but I can always have these. So there now I have to make decisions. Do I want to be the yellow one or do I want to be the red one? So many things in life. So I just thought, as we're making some table things, we've made the placemat, we've made the coaster, we might as well make some hats. There's probably going to be some other things coming along amongst the Christmas ideas, as well as some ornaments and things too. So a fun season. Let's enjoy it and make these fun things. So thank you. That was idea number 5. I'll see you again with idea number 6.